repeat after you introduce me, is if you work in a capacity in learning and development where you finally got your boss, your sponsor, your client to move into virtual because of COVID, I want to hear from you. Just say yes, just type in a quick yes if you finally got them to do a webinar instead of a class, or to do you know, a video instead of some other. We did so because of Kirsten. That's Will's on the line, and he's going to be working on one of the cases that I'll be talking about today.
All right, Vincent, we're at noon. Start the show.
We just hit the magic hour. Welcome, everyone. This is the second in ISPI SoCal, ISPI Southern California, a series of webinars about the challenges of COVID-19 for people like us, learning and performance improvement professionals. Before we get started, I'll show you just some guidelines for today's meeting, and then we'll get speaking with our guest. We're all looking forward to Kirsten Giles. First, you noticed when you came in, you were placed on mute. Surprise, surprise. But we do want to hear from you. Please put your questions, your comments, anything, even answering to Kirsten's question in the chat box. We want to hear from it. We will try to leave some time at the end. We're going to be going over 3 case studies today, so we'll have some questions on each one, and there's room for more questions at the end. But we're very respectful of your time. We will end at 12:45. Today's session is being recorded. If you want privacy, turn off your personal, you know, your mug, and your personal video. Thank you, Miller. Miller Farwell, our treasurer of ISPI SoCal, will be jumping in on occasion to help technically guide us. But let's get on to our first guest. I assume everyone's got the guidelines down, so we can go ahead and stop sharing that. We're so excited that you're all here. Even more than that, we're all excited by today's presenter, Kirsten Giles. She's creative director at Pale Blue Designs. Kirsten has more than 25 years experience in training and performance in the automobile industry, numerous Fortune 500 companies, including AT&T, Audi, DirecTV, Ford, Hilton Hotels, Hyundai, Mercedes-Benz, the Rickless Group, Subaru, Toyota, Lexus. I feel like I'm doing one of those things when people at the end get the Academy Award and start listing everyone, but with Kirsten, it's all true. So we're very delighted to have her. She also has an educational background. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to go over 3 case studies that Kirsten has personal experience with, all how companies pivoted given the COVID-19 world that we're in. With that as an intro, and please forgive what I didn't cover, Kirsten, the floor is yours.
Okay, I just muted Miller because his doorbell keeps ringing. So I figured maybe we didn't want to hear the ding. Welcome, everyone. If you just showed up, I asked one poll question just right at the top. If you work in a training and development capacity and something that you've been trying to get your sponsors, clients, colleagues to do in virtual COVID was just the thing you needed to sell it or to make it happen, please chat me and let me know that you've already made some of these pivots. I'm really excited for all 3 of the clients that I've been working with that have embraced some new ways of doing business, or performing their services. So I'm going to go through each one of those. I have a couple little toys, not really toys. Happy Cinco de Mayo. I hope you have a margarita. But I'm going to do this case first. And I'm going to hold this up here because we are recording. And this is a great way later, when you go through the recording, you'll be able to find this case. Huh? Clever as you.
And everyone who doesn't know, this was the 3rd one that was listed on the website. This is how an elite organizational change consulting team devised an event-based webinar series for education and prospecting.
Great. So this is an automotive client. And so just to get in the automotive theme, I want everybody to chat all the time. So please chat me the first car you had. Your first car, was it a Mercury? Was it a Pontiac? What car was your first car? I want to see everybody's, oh, there you go, the 96 Cadillac, first one on. See, look at that. Everyone loves their first car. Ooh, Phoebe, I had the same car as you. All right, so this is in the automotive industry. I have a lot of different projects where I create the consulting strategies for consultants that are doing performance improvement. So typically, that is someone who has a ton of automotive experience. They go into the stores and they work face to face. So face to face, we're already in trouble, right? And this particular team was working on digital retailing. If you're not in our industry, if you're not in the automotive industry, digital retailing in a nutshell is, can you sell a car online? Can you go end to end without ever having to touch the customer? So we had some dealers who were already going down that road, and they had these great consultants and everything was fine, but they were a really small audience. Enter COVID-19. Now the OEM realizes, oh my gosh, all of our dealers want to know how to do this for the obvious reason, right? So this was one of those, it's a theme, right, where we finally pushed over and got them over a ledge. So when those restrictions started, our consultants were working toward trying to figure out how to work with each of their dealerships online, right? Process mapping, all these face-to-face things. And meanwhile, we have all these dealers going, what can I do online? So we pulled those consultants, sort of pivoted them away from that work they were doing with dealers and said, what can we teach the whole country? What can we put together quickly and roll out to all these dealers across the country who are really worried, like, I can't sell a car. And as you guys know, from one state to the next, from one city to the next, it was very different what the executive order would allow. So we realized that the training had to be pretty generic, had to touch on some digital retail philosophies, some general operational stuff. And of course, the manufacturer was also hard at work coming up with a set of policies. You know, we've all been in this uncharted water now lately, right? And so a whole new policy book had to be created. So our solution was to work quickly. And the reason being, we knew that we were redeploying all these consultants. So essentially taking them away from the people that they were assigned to work with. So we didn't want it to last for long. So we wrote about 9 or 10 different topics. I participated in writing a fair batch of those, and we rolled them out immediately. So I think April 1, right around there, was our first one. And they went every day for 2 weeks. We used those facilitators. We had to do it in that sort of sprint because A, everybody was panicked, and B, we knew that those consultants had to get back to the clients that they were actually assigned to and not spend a ton of time with this larger body. So from an outcomes perspective, by repurposing those consultants, I think we did some really good work by reaching out into the broader audience. I think lining up with my theme for today, for a lot of dealers, this was not a boost. This was a push off of a ledge, and it worked. Like, a lot of them started at least treating their leads a little bit better, engaging with their customers on FaceTime, and using some of these tools they could have been using all along. And so that was really great. The other thing that was a positive and also a little bit of a negative is all the questions we got. Because, you know, in this environment, and I'm not the only one, you've heard some questions that we've never had to answer before. So the FAQs, gathering all those questions from every single webinar that we released, and then pulling those all together and kind of really collaborating with the OEM to come up with the best right answer that works for anywhere without knowing what their executive order might be. That was a good and a bad. It was very arduous, but it was also, I think, it created a great body of knowledge for all the other dealers. So what questions? Did you have any questions?
Kirsten, I have a question, and I was encouraging people to write in chat any questions. What are some of the things that didn't work that you say, gee, it didn't quite go like we wanted it to?
So again, the FAQs, the question and answers, was really the hard part, because as you guys know, if you're a corporation and you're going to speak to your entire dealer body and give them a fact, it better be a fact, right? So anything that was, you know, operational, we kind of had to send it up through the ranks and have an awful lot of people look at the answers before they could go out. You think about things like finance regulations and things like that that are compliance related, really just making sure that we didn't advise or teach in an arena that really the OEM is either restricted from teaching or just shouldn't be advising or coaching.
Sure. Kirsten, Dave asked a question about the customers always feel the need to kick the tires, to feel you know what I mean, to feel it. How's that handled?
Yeah, that's a great question. The strategies that our consultants are typically putting in place are appointment only with social distancing. And so there is an opportunity, of course, to drive the vehicles. I've also had some dealers tell me that they've had several cars sold without driving, because at this point you can go to places like Konnichiwa or YouTube and see all these different drive videos and really get a sense of the drive. And if it's your third XYZ, you might already know it's going to ride well and it's going to have the features that you're comfortable with. So that's sort of an answer to that question.
Okay. Another question from Linda wanted to know, how many webinars did you create and were they delivered live or recorded?
Yeah, both for the sprint, right? So there were 9 that went out Monday through Friday and Monday through Thursday. They were about 25 to 40 minutes because Q&A was open. And we did them 3 times a day so that the same webinar went out 3 times. That way we hit all of our time zones. And we recorded all 3 and then chose the best to post on their intranet.
Okay, great. I don't see any more questions right now, but I know there's a time lag between the time someone thinks of a question till it gets printed, till I'm bright enough to look over in the chat box and read it. So if everyone will think early, because Vince moves slowly, kind of.
And that's okay, because we have time at the end too.
Yes.
So are we ready for our next case? I've got my sticky
Yes,
note.
let's go with the next case.
Okay.
Otherwise known as the pink one. Should I
The
tell
pink
should I
one
say-
is, oh, look, I'm shaking a little. That's funny. Lots of energy, this girl. Lots of coffee, actually. So, social media training. So this one's really fun. And someone who got here early today pointed out that that this whole project is something that we're working on together. So this is a commercial truck. And when I say commercial truck, I just want to make sure y'all understand we're not talking about heavy duty trucks. We're not talking about those big giant ones with the shipping crates on the back. We're talking about the ones that you're likely to see in your neighborhood, like a trash truck, a landscaping truck, or a food truck, right? So commercial truck, in many cases, is an essential service, right? They're delivering food, they're delivering supplies, they're taking out, they're doing garbage, right? So they didn't have the same issues that automotive had in terms of, oh my gosh, we can't sell, what are we gonna do? What they had was the problem that a lot of their truck sellers and dealers have been in this business a long time. They're a little slow to change, and they were still running a lot of their book of business using a phone and a Rolodex. You know what I mean? And maybe that's, you know, a little too rough on them, but they definitely weren't maximizing the opportunity that social media offers to build credibility, create relationships, and now do even more of that, right? Browse product, learn about product, that kind of thing. So we created this one-day class, and it was going to be so fun, you guys. It was going to have like almost a laboratory. I call it almost a content palooza. So you got beautiful trucks over here, and we could go over there and you could take a video of yourself talking about some of the features and then post that on your social media. Or there's a really cool parts display and you could do a little educational segment and record that for your social media. So it was going to be this great chance for people to actually learn how to ride a bike with bikes. Do you know what I mean? That analogy of actually having them do what we wanted them to do. So that was going to be, I think, a 28 city tour with 50 people in every class. And obviously COVID came along. We were all about to go to go do our train the trainer and start the tour, and we had to pivot. So what we did with this one, and I credit my client, he's fantastic, he's very insightful, and he said, let's make it a video. And at first I was like, ooh, I don't think you could take a one-day class and just make a video, because that would be too long, first of all. But then I started to see the meta in this idea. And the meta in this idea is that here we are telling people, get comfortable on video, walk around, do content. You know, we're trying to encourage them to do this. So having a role model in our facilitator who can get up and talk to camera and be amazing really kind of makes sense. And to give them that opportunity to work on this at home and work through the content, we really know that some of them are now inspired, right? So maybe they didn't get pushed off the cliff, but they certainly got inspired to figure out ways to create traffic to their business using social media.
So let me interrupt you a second and mention Diane had a question. I'm not sure it was for this case study or the prior one, where she asked Kirsten, did you give any advice on how to position the response to COVID, like a standard set of statements?
Yeah, I think Diane is talking about the last case. And in fact, that's one of the most important things you can do. If you drive down your neighborhood street and you see that your restaurant has hung a big banner, you need to do the equivalent of that in any business you're in. You need to figure out how to shout from the rooftops what you can do during this time. And so, yeah, we definitely worked with a lot of dealers on their websites to figure out how to help them give the right message. Okay, so back to our fun one-day class. Beautiful trucks. We're going to have trucks. We're going to have parts displays. We're going to have all this cool stuff, and they were all going to be able to do social together. And so we decided to move it to video. So in the video world, obviously we needed to segment it out. So it's not that, it's not neuroscience. We parted out the course into segments. We try to apply a good treatment. So some of them are interviews, some of them are panels, some of them have a little more time spent on how to do it, one of the activities in the participant guide. So it's a little bit slower paced, but I think it's going to work. And I say I think because we haven't done it yet. This is our new strategy. And so the other thing that we wanted to do is use Rise. So this is going to be fun. If anybody on the line is a learning and development person who uses Rise, I often say it's kind of like e-learning, but vertical instead of horizontal. I don't know. That's probably not a good way to describe it. If you have a better way to describe it, I want to hear it because people don't really get it. But what we wanted to do is use Rise as the shell for delivering the videos episodically, like a Netflix series, as we roll them out. So it won't be like the Netflix series where the whole series is available on the first day, but once we roll it out episode by episode, it'll all be there. Every episode is accompanied by a PDF. So this is a big challenge with video learning. You have to figure out a way to create that two-way connection with your learner that they have to be accountable back to you. So how are you going to do that? So we started out thinking, well, we'll have them send us their PDF. Well, that's just too cumbersome. That's a lot of paperwork we'd be getting that we really don't have resources to look at. So we made the PDF a form that they could just use it for their activities. And then we're linking out to a test so that they can at least hit a little small battery of quiz questions when they're done. The other thing that we're doing in the initial cohort, in the first rollout of this, we'll be offering social media challenges for prizes. So if the social media challenge is introduce yourself on a selfie video on your webpage, you need to send us the link and we'll go look at it. So that's just for that first cohort when it first goes out, starting in August probably is where we're timing it right now. But that's one way that we created that two-way connection where people are a little bit more accountable to the learning. And I think the only other thing about that particular project is that once the last episode's published, we do have that course now to go back to and that people can continue to take as turnover happens. So that is that one. Right now, I can't really give you any pros and cons yet because we're not done yet. We're just in the process of turning all of our facilitated classroom content into broadcast scripts. So that's sort of a process we have to get through, and then we'll do our shoot and cross our fingers. I'm pretty confident it'll go over well.
So Kirsten, let me interrupt you. First of all, William in Toronto mentioned how they're doing it right now in his text, and I'm not sure I understood William.
I know what he's saying. He's saying that today was Toronto. We were all supposed to be there right now delivering that course. He's our facilitator, and he's fantastic on video, so we're really excited that he's available and able to repurpose this course content. Okay. And yes, Rise is a product made by the Articulate team. So if you know Articulate Storyline for e-learning, it is a similar e-learning tool, but it does a better job of curating unrelated assets into a simple structure. So you're no longer tied to all those transitions that glued all your content together. You can kind of piecemeal it. So we're going to use it vertically with an episode, a PDF, an episode, a PDF.
Thank you for explaining that. Maria had a question. How do you make the video interactive? And then she explained, wait, you've answered it. So,
That's that accountability. It is difficult because what you save in labor of not having people go all over, the country and standing in classrooms and all of that, you still need some back-end administration if you really want to create that two-way connection with your learners.
Okay, and Gabriella had mentioned, how do you get clients on board with presenting on video, and what were the pushbacks with that?
The pushback is always fear, right? And that's actually, you just teased my next chat question. So since COVID, you've all done more video than you might have done for the last, let's say, 3 years. So I'd love to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident were you on video on that first day of COVID, when you knew you had to actually get up on screen and be in a Zoom or do this or anything? Scale of 1 to 10, how confident? Yeah, 5, 6, 0. So yeah, it's primarily fear, Gabriella. It's just fear. And that was why the classroom was designed to just go, you know what? Grab your phone, we're going outside, we're going to go make some content, we're going to make this happen. So yeah, 10, but Will does it all the time, so he gives himself a 10. Diana has no pajamas, so I'm guessing she got caught in her pajamas on a webinar. That's just a guess. Anyway, so yeah, that's primarily the problem, is fear. And so really it's just like swimming, you just got to jump in, right? So, okay. Are we on to our next one?
Let's go to our third one. And this is one, but you have a different colored sticky, right? Ta-da, the yellow sticky. How a nonprofit organization moved their experiential learning events to the popular Zoom platform.
Yes, and I know that most of you don't teach creative writing and learning and development, but I promise you, in this segment, I'm going to talk about some cool things you can do on these kind of meetings to give it a little zhuzh, to give it a little sparkle, to get a little bit more interaction. So Right Girl is a nonprofit. I've worked with them for 11, 12 years. And we work with teenagers age 13 to 18. Now, by the way, they're all having a pretty hard time with this, right? A lot of FOMO. I can't get to go anything. I don't get to see anyone. This is a critical time in their social skills development, so it's tough. And so we, if you have teenagers in the house, this is a very funny chat challenge that I put in here at the last minute. If you have a teenager in the house, I want you to chat right now. What time do they get up in the morning during COVID? Because things. He's quite civilized. Oh, good. Well, we have some good early. There you go. College kids at home, 1 o'clock. 5 minutes before class starts. Yeah, exactly. So Right Girl pairs professional women writers with teens in the inner cities or the underserved communities, and we create creative writing relationships. So it's a mentoring relationship, and Right Girl's role is to provide education resources that support that mentorship. And as anybody who knows, if you're a writer, that's part of just finding your voice. Whether you write a poem, an essay, or a manifesto, those writing skills are super applicable throughout life, all through college, all through. So it is really life skills kind of a mentorship that we build. One of the resources we offer is our monthly workshops, and those are crazy events with, I talked earlier about the big trucks, and then it's like that. There's, art installations. There's sometimes we go to galleries. There's stuff that they touch. They write on the walls on posters to respond to prompts, or they draw things from a hat, or they spin a wheel to see what color they're going to write about, right? So there's all these really fun, manipulative, interactive, immersive, experiential things. And here's COVID. So for this particular one, I'm actually just going to take activities that we used to do in the workshops and show you what we're doing with them online. I think any further than that, it's not quite as applicable, but I think you might get some great ideas for your next meeting. So we're going with a 90-minute workshop. We tried an hour. It wasn't quite enough time. And I think once you go past 90 minutes without a break, biology will take over and lose people no matter what. So that seems to be a sweet spot for us. We use chat constantly. I've tossed a few today for that same reason, right? Just to kind of stay connected, have you feel seen. A lot of teens really need right now to feel seen and heard, because as adults, our priorities, our concerns are much bigger, and we have no idea what they're going through, and we're not looking through the world through their eyes. So that's really important that we're engaging them. So we use chat all the time. We want them to be like a part of the conversation. So we have something called Soapbox at our workshops. And Soapbox is like, it's literally a box that a girl can walk up to. She can get up on those soapbox and rant or rave about anything for 30 seconds. It is always fun. You get a really cool glimpse into the teen experience. And for some of these girls, that might be the first time they've ever done a critical skill that we all need, public speaking. So it's a really great tool that we use. So on Zoom, the way that we worked it out is that we say it's time for Soapbox. The girls can chat in their name to get in the queue. And then on Zoom, if you know it well, you know there's a spotlight feature. So we can literally spotlight them, make sure they hold the whole screen, give their 30 seconds, and then on to the next. And the girls love it. They love it just as much as they loved it in the real workshops. The next thing, we have about 200 people in the workshop, so we do have a lot of admin support in the production area. I will warn that with the larger Zooms, you need several people to help you run it, right? You want someone watching the waiting room, someone watching the chats, someone still watching the corporate email in case someone's emailing going, I can't get in, right? So there's all these roles we like to make sure we fill, and I think we have about 6 different distinct roles that we use to produce a good big Zoom like this. The next thing that we do a lot of at Red Girl is called randomizing. So if you ever had to write that essay of what you did on your summer vacation, any writing prompts that are repetitive, that everyone's doing the same thing. So what we decided to do is enlist the help of our volunteers. So on a typical Zoom workshop for Red Girl, we have about 200 people. 70 of them are professional women writers and the rest are teens. So I'll give you our examples of what we've done so far. First, on our poetry workshop, we had all of our writers create little songs that had a fancy, fun word on it. And they held them up to the camera, and then we told the girls, go to gallery view, scroll through the pages, and find 2 or 3 words that inspire you. So in this way, our volunteers are contributing this fun content. It's in the moment. It's kind of magical, right? Next weekend, we're doing Memoir. And what we know about Memoir is anytime we try to write about our past, nature is something we all have in common. We all have a past experience, event, or memory that's related to some aspect of nature. Going to the beach with your family, finding a stone that looks like a turtle, all those things that happen. Spend a little more time outside. So we asked our volunteers this week to go outside, bring something from their world into the workshop, and we'll have them hold those up during our gallery walk, or nature walk is my goofy name for it, to get inspired by something from nature to write about their own personal past. So those are the ways that we're using Zoom in what I think are kind of unique ways, and ways that you could try in your meetings, making signs, holding up objects. I know people have done, share your coffee. I have a casino mug today. It's single ply though, so I think that's okay,
So,
right?
Kirsten, let me interrupt you with a question.
Yeah.
This meeting today is composed of learning and performance improvement professionals who are notoriously cooperative and good at cooperating in a meeting like this. When you've dealt with corporate clients or in the nonprofit, how have you dealt with people who weren't as good as cooperating with the ground rules and all the other understandings?
I do think when you're asking people to step outside of your comfort zone, it's really important to get their permission. And so if you were all sort of that more stubborn customer, I say, you know, I find that when we use chat during these meetings, it goes a little bit more quickly and we don't all get bored and you don't kind of look away and start, you know, getting annoyed by your cat or whatever. So is it okay with you if we do a few chats? You know, just things like that, just getting a little permission, because then people nod their heads and then they kind of buy themselves in.
Okay, great.
I like to keep everyone on mute. That's a really good one.
Yes.
What other questions does anyone have? I did have one more thing to say about Right Girl. one thing that, remember the theme of this, which is how did this COVID thing push or boost you in a new direction? And so I want to point out one thing. Right Girl's been around for 19 years. We typically and wholeheartedly serve our LA community. We have a very difficult time taking the magical thing that we do and taking it on the road anywhere else. This particular new format allows us to reach teens across the globe. Not that we have any kind of a campaign in place to start doing that, but it's a great example of how this organization has wanted to expand their reach. And so COVID might have been the boost that we needed. So that's my theme on all three of these is, you know, thank goodness this came along for the silver lining if we're trying new things.
Okay, let me follow up with that. A question that was asked earlier that kind of got lost in the mix from Maria. She mentioned this social media project sounds so awesome. I want to create learning experiences like this. Could you share a little bit about the process in creating something like this? Now, I'm not sure what this is referring to, if it's this meeting we're in right now or if it's your projects.
Yeah, so hi Maria, I know where you are. And I think when you're thinking about bringing people into a room, it is something that you have to honor, right? You have to say, what would be the reason to be in a room instead of online, right? And so the same thing with what would be a reason to be online instead of in a room, what tools will we use? So I think when I often get called on to build out experientials, probably because I have a really bad attention span. I'm really empathetic to others with a short attention span. And so I just kind of think through what would be fun first. And then if you have to back in the learning, then that's what you do to make sure that every course I build has to have some kind of a centerpiece that's highly interactive and hopefully contextual, right? So that it's as close to what people do in their jobs so they understand how it will apply. I don't know, that's a very broad answer. Hope it's okay.
Sure. I have a question, Kirsten. You gave us 3 distinct case studies. In terms of your life as a professional, which proposed the most challenges for you that you felt the most proud of overcoming the challenges?
Well, that's really asking which of my babies I like better.
I guess that is, you're correct.
I will say the one that frightened me the most was Right Girl. I just knew that our teens were so isolated. And I know, especially in a low-income family, for all we know, they're being left home alone all day while their parent, who's an essential worker, is leaving the house. So there's just an awful lot of risk involved with this current situation. And so I think they're the ones I worried the most about, that I really knew anything we do would not be enough, but anything we could do would be worth it. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And yes, I was unfairly saying, which of your children do you like the most? I understand that was intentional. Kirsten had not practiced that answer before, so this hit her raw. So
yeah, you can probably tell.
Other comments or questions? I think we've covered everything in the chat box, but if you start typing now, there's always a chance Vince might read it on time.
Yeah, think of any questions you guys have. I do think that using the boost for everything you can milk it for is my advice. If there's anything that you've been dying to do, take it to your sponsor, take it to your leader, take it to your managers and pitch it now. And be willing to be a beginner. That's sort of the part that sucks, frankly, is doing these things for the first time, and nobody likes being a beginner. We're all in the learning field. So that's our gig, right? We have to just be beginners and know that that's a tough place to be, but it's always over eventually. So have you come up with unique ways? I knew someone would give me some levels. Thank you.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Go ahead.
Have you come up with unique ways to get to a Kirkpatrick level 3 or 4 with your virtual instructor led? So that's a really great question. It's about, how can you create a trail of evidence? And so I'm just going to work with level 3 right now, because I as a vendor, I basically work on a project basis and it's mostly flat fee. So I don't really get into ROI as much from where I sit. But let me talk about that level 3. So level 3, just for those of you who are new to learning and development, the ability to demonstrate the skill that was learned in the work environment in a way that has value. And that's probably not quite the right Kirkpatrick, but it's close enough. So when you look at what is it going to take for this person to go do what I just taught them, you need to look for how can I create evidence. There's a great book called Show Your Work. Can't remember who wrote it. If you know, please put it in the chat. It's fantastic because it's all about how do you create evidence of your work. Is it a chart? Is it a, if I was teaching social media and I wanted someone to understand their digital ecosystem of how their web page connects to their socials, I would ask them to draw it and send me the picture. That's a great example of just a nice, simple evidentiary way that I can hold them accountable and see if they're getting close to that level 3. So that's my light answer to that, but definitely investigate all the ways you can find a trail of evidence and then create the tools for collecting that for them to show their work. Even if it's not a thing that they could use, right? Maybe that chart doesn't get used for anything, but maybe that process of charting it out and then validating it with a quick web search would work.
So the process.
It says.
So, great. Go ahead and share that again. It's in the chat box too. So you're talking about the process of doing it regardless of how that picture comes out. That is the real value in that.
I like Diana's question, writing 60 hours.
I was just going to refer you. Go ahead, answer it.
Yeah. Right, 60 hours of training for teachers who must bring their classes online. I cannot stress enough that the learners have to have major participatory opportunities. You cannot do 60 hours of tell to a child K through 12. There has to be tons of opportunities for it to be two-way. So really 60 hours of training is maybe only 40, right? Because there's 20 hours of work time, work product creation, back and forth conversation. I would really be careful to not create 60 delivered hours.
To jump topics only slightly, back to Kirkpatrick, a question from Leslie, where you went over the level 1, 2, and 3 of Kirkpatrick. Maybe just walk everyone through steps 1 through 4 of Kirkpatrick.
Yeah, so level 1 is what we call a smile sheet. Did the learner enjoy the experience? So you see those all the time. Did you give it a 5? Did you give it a 10? You've got to fill out a little score sheet at the end. Level 2 is whether or not you were able to demonstrate your skills and what you learned in a testing environment. So they handed you a quiz at the end, and did you get 100%? Level 3 is how did they do it on the job? And level 4 is, can we measure a return on investment for what we spent to create this training? Can we also quantify and determine what the payoff was?
Okay. Everyone, of course, got that, right? I'm being secure. Okay. We can follow up.
Easy to Google.
Yeah, the 4 steps.
Yeah, organizational change. That's great, Matt. Thank you. Level 4 doesn't always have to be dollars and cents. It can also be how it affected the whole organization.
Sure. And if anyone has questions on any of the things that Kirsten has covered today or related topics, now's the time to drop them in the chat and we'll address them because we're going to be here just a few more minutes. That was a hint.
Down. While they're doing that, why don't I show my slide real quick?
Yes.
So I've got promo, where to find me. So if you're looking for me, you can go find me on LinkedIn. I do check my LinkedIn probably twice a week, so you won't be stuck there for too long. Please follow us on Instagram. Pale Blue Design has been really focusing our Instagram feed lately on giving good e-learning and virtual learning tips. So that's actually become a nice little educational source if you're looking for ideas. On the web, if you want to know about our company, you can go to our website. And finally, oh yes, I put the /donate on there. Yes, I did, because today is Giving Tuesday. And if you don't have a nonprofit that you're writing a check for today, we would love your dollars and your cents, or just a few dollars. Any dollars makes a difference in the life of a teen. So it is Giving Tuesday, and I'm shamelessly promoting Right Girl today. So grab your camera if you want to make note of any of this, because I'm not going to keep it up for too much longer, so you can get a picture of those and know where to find me.
I might add, while Kirsten has presented today, if any of you are interested in presenting, I'll put up my email shortly. ISPI SoCal will be interested in future presentations of some of the people at this meeting. So see yourself in this role as well.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to speak to the ISPI SoCal group 3 times, once on e-learning process, once on e-learning problems. And so this was really refreshing to get a call asking, like, what are you doing right now? And I was like, well, it just so happens I got a lot going on. So it's fun to share my stories with you guys. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. What I'm going to do is put up a slide now that we'll leave up for a minute, just if you did want to do any follow-up. I'm not as good or seamless as this as Kirsten was, so please talk over it, Kirsten. You'll see a PowerPoint slide, then I'll quickly convert it to what we should see. He said, hopefully.
Oh,
Dun, dun, dun.
close enough.
Close enough, right? Here, did he get it? Okay, well, I'll leave it at the close enough stage. Basically, as you can see at ISPI SoCal, we also would appreciate in the future your involvement, whatever way that works. For right now, we're making all these meetings free for everyone. If you noticed, however you signed up, whether you're a member or not, no problem. Come and join us first Tuesday of every month, and they will continue that way in the future. If you do have follow-up questions, send them to communications at ISP. You can see it's up there. I'll leave that up there for just a minute. And then we'll return to final thoughts from Kirsten and any other final thoughts you have.
Well, my only final thought is what I've said probably 6 times, but I'll say it again. Use this, grab this opportunity to push your clients, your friends, your colleagues into new media. Zoom won't go away, video won't go away. If you're still avoiding going to a Zoom party, just grab a drink and go. It's just so great to learn new skills, and you'll feel like you live longer if you just keep learning stuff. So thank you guys so much. I so appreciate being a guest here today. Vince and Miller, you guys have been great getting me all set on this. So thank you.
And I might add one thing. We have a future presenter up next to me. His name is Suresh. He's muted right now. The reason he didn't present earlier because he's currently unable to leave some country called India. But as soon as he is able to leave, based on their current quarantine, he will be back with us. He left before this broke, and there you have it. Thank you. Thank you, Suresh. And a big thank you to the reason this meeting has worked is the person in the background. I don't know where he is on your screen. Miller Farwell, former president and treasurer, has been doing all the pushing buttons and everything like that to make it happen. I'm pointing direction I see him, but thank you, Miller. And thank you, everyone, for joining this. We hope to see you again next month, and we hope to see you at our other meetings, too. And for right now, our meetings are, what's that 4-letter word you seldom hear? Free. Anyway, so, you know, if they serve your purposes and useful, please join us. Kirsten, I should give you the final thoughts.
Oh, yeah, no, have a great Cinco de Mayo, you guys. Enjoy your Tuesday. I know it feels like every day is Tuesday, but today is Cinco de Mayo, so have a good one. Have a drink on me.
Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye.
I was waiting for just all the important people to be left.
I should get off the phone quickly. I thought, wait, let's see. Karen, okay. Anyway, Suresh, I had to get your plug